My guest this morning is Dr. Deneen Washington. She was born and raised in Newark, New Jersey. She attended Newark Public Schools and graduated from Malcolm X Shabazz High in Newark, New Jersey. While in high school, she also participated in the Stevens Institute Technology's Upward Bound program. She attended Bloomfield College, where she received a Bachelor of Science Degree in 1991. Deneen later became employed as a family service worker for Essex County Division of Welfare in 1993. In August of 1998, Deneen left the Division of Welfare to become a teacher, within the Newark Public Schools. In September of 1998, Deneen began working as a second-grade teacher at Louise A. Spencer Elementary School. After teaching for 2 years, she entered the graduate program at St. Peter's College for Education Leadership. Deneen completed her master's degree with honors. In May 2001, Deneen received her Master's of Arts degree with an Administration and Supervision Specialization from St. Peter's College. She also received a certificate in the area of Education Supervision, Principal, School, Business Administrator, and School District Superintendent. After 3 years of teaching, Deneen was appointed to a vice principal at Louise A. Spencer Elementary School, where she supervised the middle school program. Within her 3 years as vice principal, Deneen worked hard to improve her leadership skills. In 2003, Deneen was a participant in the New Leaders for Schools Leaders program. In July 2004, Deneen was appointed as the principal of Maple Avenue School. During the time that Deneen was the principal of Maple Avenue School, she worked hard to improve the academic achievement of all students, increase parental involvement, collaborate with community partners, and empower her staff members to improve their professional growth. In September of 2009, Deneen entered the doctoral program for educational leadership at Kean University. She received her doctorate in educational leadership in May of 2015. Her dissertation topic was the impact of a school-based mentoring program on middle-level students' academic achievement and behavior. In 2018, Dr. Deneen Washington was appointed principal of Belmont Runyon Elementary School. Dr. Washington's community leadership has resulted in tangible improvements in the school's culture and climate, including increased attendance, reduced absenteeism, and academic progress in core subjects. Under the guidance of Dr. Deneen Washington, Belmont Runyon School was removed from the NJDOE Comprehensive School List in 2022, a testament to her innovative approach to education. Dr. Washington supports our communities through participation in various professional organizations. The list is long and distinguished. One of the reasons she's on here today is because she's beginning the new journey, as she has recently authored her first book, Thriving Together, Cultivating Growth and Well-Being in Educational Communities. She's also looking to be a consultant, or she's moving into the consultant role to support emerging leaders with school culture and climate, as well as continue work as a certified mediator. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Reading Circle microphone, none other than Dr. Deneen Washington. Dr. Washington, good morning.
Good morning, Mark. I'm happy to be here today with you.
Well, I am happy to have you as well. Doctor, if you all remember, the listening audience, you remember like that first Saturday or second Saturday in January, I shared with you all that I was being awarded an education award from the Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated, the Delta Mu Lambda chapter. And on that dice, on that panel, of that set of awardees was Dr. Washington. And, they read each of our bios, and we had a chance to network and to meet each other. And so immediately, whenever they said something about Dr. Washington authoring a book, I said, I got to have her on the show. So I ran around that morning and I caught up with her and said, Dr. Washington, I'm so love to have you on the show. And that's how we have gotten here today. So, Dr. Washington, again, welcome. And we're going to kind of go back to, we're going back to you being born and raised in Newark, New Jersey, and going to Malcolm X Shabazz High in Newark and all that kind of good stuff. In terms of where you are now and all the things you've done in the accomplishments, is that what you set out to do as a child?
To be an author? No. As a child, I knew I was different and I did different things. And I was always into reading, but not necessarily reading novels or fictional novels. Really, I read a lot of informational texts because I'm kind of like an analytical learner, so I like to read for the purpose of learning more. So I always wanted to know more and know more, so I was constantly reading for more information. So I didn't set out to be an author. I just wanted to read for information so that I can, learn better and excel better in class. And so this life journey has just caused me to write my story through a book. And I'm sure there are more stories to come.
Well, again, see, and, it's interesting. This is my 25th year on the air, and I cannot tell you how many authors I've had on the show who say they're not an author or they never ever intended to be an author. That was not their goal. And yet you all have written books. So in terms of like becoming a teacher, an educator and all that, because we know as kids, we play school, we do all that kind of stuff, or either we play church or we, was it something like as a child that you knew that you wanted to be a teacher?
I always desired to be an educator. Since 5 years old, kindergarten, having my first kindergarten experience, I've always wanted to be a teacher. And that dream got deferred when it was time to transition into college because you hear, educators don't make a lot of money. You have a career where you can make more money. And so when I went to college, I majored in accounting and finance. And I realized that after I graduated, I did not like that field.
Oh, my God. Yours and my story is so similar. It's not funny. That's why I turned the mic button off and I hollered. I was just, whenever I graduated, and interesting enough, you went to Shabazz, I went to Eastside High School, Patterson. And so the Newark schools and the Patterson schools, they always played basketball, football against each other, what have you. But in any event, that is I had that same detour. Because my original intent when I graduated Eastside was to go to school and major in either English or music. That's what I was getting. Mm-hmm. And my father was like, oh, no. It's like, you will not be able to make money at either. If you major in English, you're going to teach and you won't make any money. If you major in music, unless you become a Michael Jackson, you're not going to make any money. So I did the same thing, Deneen. I changed I went in and majored in business administration. And with a concentration in marketing. And ultimately, when I first came out of college, I worked with AT&T. I was in corporate America. And it was so funny to just hear you say that, because that is the prevailing thought. Like, you don't want to go into education because you're not going to make any money.
Yes. And I think that children need to be told that it's okay to pursue your passion.
Yes.
My daughter was a dancer. She danced. My youngest daughter, she danced in dance school from 3 years old up until college. And then she went to college and majored in dance because that's what she was passionate about. And now she's a dance teacher. And now she's transitioning into an emerging leader. So, dreams can come true if we allow children to pursue their passion, and then they can merge into other things, because once they're into that passion and they grow and they develop skills, then those skills can be transferable into other careers as well.
Absolutely right. Matter of fact, it's almost like you reading my mind this morning as we're going back and forth, but I wouldn't be surprised if you are, because what I was getting ready to say after reading your resume, reading the bio, even though we took those detours, in my mind, there's no such thing as a wasted experience.
I agree.
So all of the experiences that we have on whatever we decided can, like you said, the skills are transferable, that you can use them, regardless of which career path or what job that you're in. You use your prior experiences. All right, case in point, when I was in college, as well as my senior year in high school, I was actually a custodian at Eastside High School. I was a custodian. And through my 4 years of college, I was a custodian. And I tell people, and I'm principal today, and I'll tell people there are some things I learned whenever I was a custodian that I use as principal.
Yes.
So there is no such thing as a wasted experience. I've been a secretary. I've been a jet engine mechanic. In each one of those positions, I've used what I've learned and been able, like you said, to transfer them into, to me, being a better principal. And so I understand exactly what you're saying. So I'm seeing here your detour, because you said later became employed family service worker for Essex County. Was that a part of your detour?
That was a part of my detour. That was a safe passage. That was after I graduated and I married early and when I was very young. And that was my first career. And I learned so much because I was working with my position allowed me to help other people find their career pathways. And so that began to nurture my sense of giving back and helping others and identifying resources. So that helped me to where I am now, just to be able to identify resources to match the need of a community. That's a lifelong skill that I'll continue to use, and to be able to empower people to move from their current situation into another pathway.
Oh, absolutely. 'Cause if there ever was kind of like a dovetail or a nice collaborative type position, it would be that and moving into teaching, because what we do, and as educators and as teachers, what we do is way beyond just ABC 1, 2, 3.
Yes.
And this is, and over the years, educators and education, we've had to take on more and more hats. There were hats like when we were kids that our teachers they didn't have that. Educators weren't expected to do that. But nowadays, we have so many hats, and exactly what you're talking about, the skills you would have learned as a family service worker, that works to your advantage.
I agree, because it helped me to learn the community, because I've always been a Newarker. So I worked in Newark and I learned about the community resources in Newark. I also learned about the people of Newark and what their needs were, and also to understand what their struggles were and their obstacles. And so the people that represented those communities, they have children that attend schools. So it was advantageous for me to understand them, to be able to provide the type of support that child needed for the whole family.
Absolutely. That's what I'm saying. If they ever, in terms of just like a puzzle piece coming together, because like I said, no experience is wasted. So, because this is the other thing, a listening audience, in terms of schools and education and so on, like I said, it's so much more than just 1, 2, 3 ABC, because all of our students come from homes, and each home are dealing with whatever their issues are. And whatever the issues are that are going on in the home, the kids bring to the school, particularly in an urban area. And I'm not saying it doesn't happen in a suburban area, but in an urban area, whatever is going on, they bring it to the school, and the teachers have to deal with that. It's not just a matter of little Timmy and Johnny and Raheem and all of them just wanting to be bad. There's something underlying. There's something at the root. There's something going on that we can't see. So that's what I'm saying. If you were in that area, you would have an advantage, because you would at least have an inkling of, okay, something's going on here. I kind of have an idea of how, like you said, the resources, or how I can get to the bottom of it.
Yes. And over time, just staying abreast of the changing trends within communities, and just to see how now many of our community students are experiencing trauma at a very early age.
That's what I'm talking about. Yes.
They're coming into our building with adverse childhood experiences. And so you have to learn as a leader, you have to learn about how to deal with those traumas from the parents and from the children. Because before you can begin to teach them, you have to understand them and build relationships, and they have to trust you.
Correct.
And trusting is a part of understanding where I'm coming from and meeting me where I am, so you can help to grow me.
That is correct. That's absolutely right. The relationships and trust, all of that comes into play. Because I see you taught second grade. And that caught my eye, because to this day, my second grade teacher is 80. I think she told me she was 86 or 87. One or the other. 86, 87, somewhere in there. And we still keep in touch with each other to this day.
Wow.
Matter of fact, now that I have mentioned her name, I'm going to text her later on this morning, because I went to see her. Yes, I went to see her. She had been ill, and her name was Miss Royster. That's her name, Miss Royster. And always one of my favorite teachers, second grade. We stayed in. She was at my 50th birthday party years ago. We always stayed in touch with each other. And she had been ill. And because I know I'd been texting her back and forth, and the response would come like a week later or 2 weeks later. And as it turns out, she'd been sick. So I was like, okay. So I said, I'm going to see. I called her one day, maybe a month ago, maybe a little bit more than a month ago now. And I said, where are you? Are you home? And she says, yes. I said, you're not in the nursing home or you're not in the hospital? She said, no, I'm home. I said, okay, I'm coming by. So she gave me a time to come by to see her, and I went to see her, and we had such a good time. Her son was there. She had even told her son, she says, you know what? When it's my time to go, please have Mark help you with the burial arrangements. And I looked at her. I said, are you kidding me? Wow. And she says, yes. She said, but I'm saying all that to say that's how close me and my second grade teacher are. And I haven't been in second grade since 1968, 1967, 68, somewhere.
Oh, wow.
But we are still to this day very close. So, I mean, as soon as I saw you taught second grade, my mind went to Miss Royster.
When I tell people that I taught second grade, they don't believe me because they just see me as I am now and not how I was. But then I had children, and I always was very engaged with my nieces and cousins. So I love second grade because second grade peer pressure isn't a problem, and children have a desire to please. And the teacher is just as important as the parent for a second grader. And there's so many different things that you can do for them because they have this natural curiosity.
That's right.
I think that helped to mold me as a leader because you want to see things from the eye of a child. And that keeps you grounded. It also helps you to understand the needs of others, and where kids can go. You can identify what's their potential from second grade. And I had a wonderful second grade experience.
Well, and you know what, that is good because, see, this is the other thing about teachers and educators. I say this all the time. One of the things that I love about particularly being an educator is that we do have an opportunity to leave a legacy. I was just sharing with you that, I'm still in touch with my second grade teacher. We have the opportunity to leave a legacy because those second graders, I will bet you, they remember Miss Washington. I will bet you. They
do. Every year we did a play. And it was a Black History Month play. But my last year of teaching, my children, we did The Wiz. And it was a musical. And they sang and they danced. They tap danced, modern dance. And they had acted out certain scenes. And we invited a large portion of the school. And when I see my children today, my students that were in that second grade class, they still remember you did The Wiz with us? Because that had never been done before.
See?
And so they's like, how did those students learn tap dance? I'm like, we learned it together. I found tap dance shoes for my daughter's dance school. They had a donated box of tap dance shoes. So I used to find some mismatches. And then my daughter had old tap shoes. And so they loved to hear the sound on the floor. It kept them engaged. The students that normally couldn't sit still, they had tap dance shoes on and they did tap dance. But it also exposed them to theater, and it also exposed them to different music.
That's right.
And to talk about the engagement of the parents. The parents made their costumes. And we had a reception afterwards. So those types of things prepared them for their next years.
Correct.
They knew what they could possibly do. If you could do this in second grade, imagine what you can do by the time that you're in eighth grade. You can write your own play.
That's right. And see, you said a whole lot there in terms of, and one of the key words was exposure. You expose them to something they may not like. The fact that they were in the play. They were in the play. They were part of the play, the costume. And then you engage the parents because educators will tell you one of the most challenging things to do is engage your parents. And once you do that, I mean, my thing is this. I have a triangle, and I know we have to separate the difference between church and state. So what I usually say is, okay, this is the triangle. If we can get church, home, and school working together, it's golden. Now, I'll remove the church piece because, church and state. So if we get the home and the school working together, because I tell my students all the time, listen, this is a group thing here. This is a partnership. This is not the home against the school against the home. Because the kids, savvy kids will play two ends against the middle. They will play the home against the school, and they will play the school against the home. So I make it very clear to them, no, you're not going to get over on either one of us. We're working together. So once you just now said parent engagement, you had the parent engagement, you had students feeling good, you had the perfect combination there with that, and the fact that you said they come back and they remember the whiz, they remember that play.
They remember it. Even if I see parents, they would still remember that. And to full circle, like some of my students, they have come back to work for me, or I've had their children, and that's full circle when you can have your students' children in your school as a principal. And it's a feel good that you really can't explain with words.
Right.
It just makes your heart feel full, like you have made a difference. And those types of differences, you can't compensate it with money. And you just have to have that feeling that you have had an impact on multiple generations. And so when we talk about in the community, when we talk about breaking a cycle, we break the cycle in schools every day.
Right. So I have a question that just got texted to me. I'm a family services coordinator in South Carolina. Was it difficult getting fathers involved?
No. And see what I've learned, right? And when I stopped believing this, and I'm doing consulting work in education, but when I stopped believing that parents don't care or parents don't want their children to learn, then I need to step away. I firmly believe that all parents, no matter what your condition is and what your gender is, that you want your child to be successful and you want to be a part of it. But the problem is that they don't have an entry point. And we don't make it easy because many parents have been harmed in school themselves. They've been labeled, they've been mistreated in schools, or they've been allowed to fail. So
Correct.
That puts them with an armor when it comes to dealing with their child.
Correct.
So when we lower that barrier and when we give them an entry point, when we focus on the child and the child's strengths, and we deal with strength-based training and strength-based education, that's an entry point for the parent because the parent knows that their child is talented. Every parent knows that their child is like a superstar.
Correct.
So when we allow them to see that talent in our schools, that's an entry point to parents. No, you might have a parent workshop on math or learning a new math skill, and you'll have empty seats. There's never an empty seat when you have a play.
That is correct.
When you have a dinner.
That's
when
correct.
You have a graduation. There's never an empty seat because parents want to celebrate their children. So that's how you gauge them. You celebrate the children, and then you do the extra.
Correct.
But you got to get them in, and you get them in by focusing on the child. Not the negative part of the child.
Correct.
But the good part of the child.
I like the way you said that. Celebrate the child. Celebrate the child. Because, again, for those of us, I can't imagine, but it does happen. I can't imagine anyone going into education or into teaching who don't like kids. It's kind of like, well, why would you go into education if you don't like kids? And what I'm saying is what you were just saying about celebrate the child. As much as I encourage that in my school, I still don't think we do it enough because we're real quick to lambast. We're real quick to tear them down. We're real quick to talk about how bad they are. Like you said, we are really quick to call home to the parents for something negative. But have you?
For something
yes, that's exactly right. Call home because how the parent feels once they've gotten that call. They listen. I'm not calling you to anything bad. I'm just telling you that little such and such today was wonderful. Your daughter, your son did such. They did a fantastic job. And I could hear on the telephone the change in energy, the change. They're on the phone. They're not on video. They're not on virtual. They're on the phone, but I could feel their smile coming through the phone lines.
But Mark, that call doesn't come in November when it's time for report cards. That call needs to happen before that child steps into the door of the
Correct.
school. That's when you begin to build relationships with parents. Hello, my name is Miss Johnson. John will be in my class. I want to introduce myself to you and let you know what my teaching style is. Can you tell me a little bit about John?
Wow.
That's when
yes.
you build relationships right there because then The parent gets to know you. And they say, wow, he thought enough of you, John, to call me and say, I'm going to be your teacher.
That's absolutely right. I could not agree with you more. Because see, all right, listening audience, I hope you've been with me since 6. Certainly hope you've been with me since 7. My guest this morning is Dr. Deneen Washington. And as you've probably caught from the conversation, we're talking about, for the most part, life of an educator and building relationships and in school, because Dr. Washington has written a book based on her experiences. And exactly what we're talking about is how you turn a school around. Her book is Thriving Together, Cultivating Growth and Well-Being in Educational Communities. And exactly what we're talking about is how you make that happen. So when you went, because for me, whenever I left AT&T and went into education, I already had my first master's. I already had a master's degree. And they were like, well, if you want to be a principal, you got to go back and get a master's. But I have a master's. They're like, no, you got to get a master's in ed leadership, administration, so on and so on. Like, are you kidding me? Like, no. So I went back to school and got that particular one. How was it for you now? Because what I would tell the dean is, I said, well, you know what? I doubt very seriously if I'm going to leave the classroom. I'm going to get this degree, but I doubt very seriously if I'm going into administration. I love being in the classroom. So the dean of the program at the time, and he just passed away a couple of years ago, was Dr. Michael Chiricello. Me and him got along famously. I mean, we became really close friends. So he looked at me and he says, well, Mark, look at it this way. He says, in the classroom, you get to impact and influence 15, 20, 25 kids at a time. But as the building principal, you get the chance to impact the entire building. Now, when he said that, that's what reframed for me. That's what changed my perspective. I said, you know what, you're right. How was it for you leaving the classroom and moving into administration?
I had that same experience. Because when I first received my teaching position, I was just happy that finally I was going to be doing something that I loved and had dreamed about.
Yes.
And I remember, because I wasn't an educational major, I had to go through New Jersey's alternate route program.
Same here.
And so with another person in my cohort was also a teacher in our school. And she went through the administration and supervision track at St. Peter's University now right away. And it was just one day on my prep period, I'm walking, and I'm like, what are you doing in the vice principal's office? Oh, you're not supposed to be in there. And she's like, no, I'm doing my internship. And I said, internship? We just finished our teaching program. Like, how are you doing an internship for an administrator? And I was like, if she could do it, I could do it.
There you go.
And lo and behold, that next cycle, that next semester, that next September, I was enrolled in the master's program because I didn't see myself as doing something outside of that classroom.
Right. That's right.
I said, she's just like me. I could do it. If she could do it, I can do it. So that kind of empowered me to want to do it. And then I just had a principal that believed in me. And when he saw my drive, he just had this opportunity, and it just happened. And for me, throughout my career, it has been always that opportunity coming for me.
Correct.
When I went into family service worker, it was an opportunity. And it was like, if the timing had been different, the opportunity wouldn't have been there. The same for teaching, the same for a vice principal, and the same for a principal. But for each opportunity, I had to put in the work.
Correct.
I had to put in the sweat and the tears. And so for me, transitioning out of the classroom, because I taught second grade. And so now I'm going to be the middle school vice principal, middle school, over grades 6 to 8. So
That's right.
Wow.
That's right.
I got second grade, which means that you learned first grade and you learned third grade while you're learning second grade. Now I have to go and learn 6th, 7th, and 8th grade and prepare students for 9th grade.
That's correct.
What are you doing? Right? And so then you have to start learning again. So I'm reading again, reading for information. I'm reading the curriculum so I can learn. I'm reading the same novels that the students have to read. And I'm learning about middle school practices and best initiatives. I read Turning Point for middle school education that focused on the strategies that students that need to be engaged with in middle school to prepare them for life. So it was a learning phase again. And so when I was able to implement those strategies, then that middle school turned around. And then I said, oh, wow, like, I feel confident. Let me try and apply for a principal position. And I had been getting mentoring from other individuals that was giving me some advice and nurturing along the way. And then it happened. But it didn't happen without work.
Correct.
And without a lot of sacrifices.
Correct.
And without me consistently learning more.
No, yeah, I'm listening to you, and our paths are so similar. And because it was the same, like in terms of the opportunities. I mean, it's like I always tell people, if I ever wanted to tell you about God's hand at work in terms of timing, that was it. I mean, in terms of whenever I transitioned from corporate to education, everything. And then the same thing happened again when it was time for me to move through administration in terms of vice principal and so forth and so on. Because you are right. This stuff doesn't happen by magic. You have to put in the work. Now, those folks who are in the principal seat or the superintendent seat or whatever, unless there's some serious nepotism going on, I'm not to say that's not ever happened, but unless there's some serious nepotism going on, you got to put in the work. Because for one thing, you got to know what you're doing. When you get in these seats, you have to know what you're doing. There's a lot that goes with being a principal and a superintendent and all. There's a whole lot that people just think principals kind of sit in their office and be twiddling their thumbs. That's not the case. We're out in classrooms, and then we're not in classrooms. We're in the office looking at data, or either we're putting something else that we have to comply with, some other kind of reports that we have to turn in. We're doing the bureaucratic piece. We're working with parents. So there's a lot, and you really do have to know what you're doing. It's not something that you can just wing. You got to get in. Yeah, go ahead.
And if you get in a seat because of a privilege or because of a connection, get in a seat, but staying in a seat.
Correct.
Staying in a seat, and that means that you have to be resilient.
Correct.
And flexible, adaptable. You have to communicate. You have to have a level of empathy. It's so many skills that a principal. If you don't have a crossing guard today, then you need to make that happen.
That is correct.
Travel to your school safely. If the nurse is not there, you need to be able to triage.
That's correct. I'm telling you, there are so many piece parts that the administrator is responsible for. And on any given day, that you can have your best laid plan when you walk through that door, and any given day, one of those things that you just talked about will now take you off. Like, okay, yeah. I got to call security, I call the police, get somebody, I got to get a crossing guard out here. Nurse is out today. Okay, now I got to call nursing department, get a substitute. There's just so many things that goes through that. So now you did your master's, you moved into administration, and now you decide to do your doctoral. And I know you're a member of Sigma Gamma Rho, so what I'm about to say, you'll relate to, because I'm in my doctoral program at the moment. Matter of fact, if all goes well, God willing, if everything stays on track, I should graduate May of 2026. However, and the reason I'm saying this statement about you being in Sigma Gamma Rho, with me being Alpha Alpha, I say for me, the doctoral program is like academic pledging.
Oh, it is. Taking the coursework is not pledging, and there's no such thing as pledging anymore. But those of us that were brought into our organizations earlier, we know what it is.
Right.
But taking the coursework is one thing. Oh, yes, you're learning. You're learning about data, you're learning about personnel management. You're learning all that.
Right.
Then when it comes time to writing and revising your questions, that's when the hazing begins. And my brother is currently in a PhD program, at St. Peter's University, and he's going through the process now. And my words to him consistently is the best dissertation is
that's right. A done dissertation. That's right. Let the hazing begin. Is right.
And it's a personal journey.
Right.
Because you're writing when you're doing an EDD or PhD, somewhere there's a passion.
That's
you're
right.
writing about something that has impacted you, something you want to learn about,
right.
something that you are passionate about and that you want to carry forward. And so you get caught in your passion. So your advisor is going to keep you grounded in the data.
Right.
And so that's kind of hard. Like, but I want to do this. No, you can't do this. This is not what your research is saying. So, you're going through those curves and ups and downs. So when you're done, when you finished, then you have another learning curve. You have another story to tell.
No, you're right. And yes, you are speaking the experience very well. That's exactly what it is as you go through. So that's why I said, well, if you're in a fraternity or sorority, and you remember back in the day when we pledged, it's kind of like academic pledging. It's you can call it that. Just the constant, and like you said, the coursework in and of itself is what it is. But working on those dissertation, on that research and your study, you're absolutely right. I cannot agree with you more. Yeah. So now, in terms of writing your book, because again, we just said earlier, no experience is wasted. How much, or which came first? Because the book came after the doctoral, correct?
Oh, way after. I received my doctorate in 2015.
Okay.
The book came in 2024.
Okay, so how much of now what you went through in the dissertation process helped you in writing the book?
It helped a lot because I found myself doing too much. That's too much. Like stick to the facts. And it's not a memoir. It's an informational text for people to learn. So you don't have to necessarily read it cover to cover. You could pick it up. If you're focusing on data, you can read chapter 1. If you're focusing on student voice, you could focus on chapter 4. So the idea was to stay grounded in a theme. And the idea was to make it an easy read, make it conversational, but also to make it factual and to make it informational, and to have individuals who are going to engage in it to be able to do additional research in order to improve their conditions within their school. So that editing process was very similar to writing a dissertation.
Right, that's what I thought. Because
if my chapter 1 originally would have been my whole book. I'm like, nobody's going to read that. Nobody's going to read a 300-page chapter 1. So it's like I got to cut it. So you have to prioritize. You have to narrow it down and then stick to a linear focus.
Yeah, no. So I just know. I mean, while we're going through the experiences, they may seem challenging or whatever. But once you get beyond them and then look back on them, you see where your growth came from. You see, how the experience helped you, so forth and so on. So I'm not surprised that what you went through in terms of writing your dissertation would have come in handy as you were now writing your book.
Yes. Because for me, when I was writing my dissertation, chapter 2 was the most difficult because it was similar to my chapter 1.
Okay.
Chapter 2 is all your literature review. So you have all of these resources and you have to summarize
That is correct.
And it's like, you're doing too much, my advisor. You're doing too much. It's too much and it's not focused. So that was the same thing that I went through with chapter 1. It's too much and you're not focused. You need a linear focus. So those messages were my messages. But when I was writing my dissertation, those were the messages from my advisor.
I'm looking here again. I'm staying with your bio. I see you took the Belmont Runyon School from the NJDOE Comprehensive School List in 2022. Congratulations, guys. You and I, we were in the same year. My school, the Young Men's Leadership Academy, we came off that same year. So congratulations. That is for those of you in the listening audience, your school, based on, the students' academic performance on these standardized tests, is what places you in categories. And you can be a comprehensive school, and there's 2 or 3 other categories. We call ourselves in status. And so the objective or the goal for a principal that has one of those is to try to get out of status. And it is a big deal. So when I saw that, I said, ooh, I know that feeling. So she took Belmont Runyon School from the NJDOE Comprehensive School List. Congratulations to you, because that's not an easy work.
No, it was not easy. And we celebrated as a school community when we did come out of status. Every year we had a theme to start our school year. So in 2023, our school theme that we opened with was straight out of status.
I know that's right.
We had to put on T-shirts, and that was a way to celebrate us. Belmont Runyon School was placed in status. So when I arrived at Belmont Runyon School in 2018, it had already been in status for quite so many years.
Right.
And we were in status because of attendance, because of our average daily attendance, and because of our chronic absentee rate, because of our academic achievement and lack of growth, and because of our discipline. The year I arrived, the year prior, there had been 179 suspensions. Our attendance, we had a chronic absentee rate of about 46%. Our average daily attendance was 86% when the state's saying that you have to have 95%.
That's right. That's right. So
academic growth there was no growth. So we came in with a vision of improving the culture and climate.
Correct.
And when we improve the culture and climate, and when we build up teachers, when we give students voice, and when we do that and create an atmosphere that is welcoming and embracing for all, then everyone will want to be there and they'll show up. That'll improve our attendance.
Correct.
And when the teachers are empowered and they improve their skill, then the academic performance will go up. And when we are creating environments where we don't scrutinize students for behavior, and we create a positive learning environment and focus on positive behavior supports, then the discipline will go down.
Correct.
And so those are those elements, doing those elements consistently for 4 years helped us to get out of status. And so it was a remarkable achievement for the team at Belmont Runyon School. And I didn't do it alone. It was a team approach.
That's absolutely right. I mean, it's like I said, our similarities are something. We just met that second Saturday or whatever Saturday was in January, and we're talking now. It's amazing how similar the paths are. I mean, very, very, because when I got to Young Men's Leadership Academy, it was the same type deal. Matter of fact, we didn't necessarily, well, I guess we could have, because you said discipline, because the discipline is what led to the suspension, so forth and so on, but it was the same indicators that caused us. And so it was like, you got to get kids. And my school is tiny. So when I say tiny, I mean tiny. My school is like the size of a classroom. I have had large schools where I've led 500, 600, 700, 800 kids. So forth. The school I'm in now is extremely small. So every kid counts. And so when you were talking about absenteeism, what people don't realize is suspension days feed into absent days. So if you have a lot of suspensions, you're going to have a lot of absences because kids not in school. Because the way the state sees it is, we don't care why the child is out of school. If they're not in school, they're not learning. So therefore, if they're not in school, they're not learning, they're considered absent. Because we'll get parents come in, but he was in the doctor. And they say, yeah, we get it. But the state of New Jersey said if a child wasn't in school, they weren't learning, so they were not there.
And it's a high correlation with attendance and student achievement. Students need consistent teachers every year. Good teachers. Yes. And they also need to be present in classrooms.
Yes. Absolutely, they do. And the other thing is the teacher have to be there, too. Not only does the child have to be there, the teacher has to be there. We need a teacher because we track, attendance of teachers and students. It's, it's interesting to have this conversation as, again, an educator to educator because, I get excited whenever we start talking about this kind of stuff because, again, we have the opportunity to impact lives.
Yes.
I have something on my phone because there's a saying that says teachers make every other profession possible.
Yeah.
Like if it were not for us, were not for educators, because this is what it says. It says engineers make bridges, artists make paintings, scientists make rockets, but teachers make them all.
Correct.
Everybody had to go to somebody's school, had to be taught. I don't care what you are, astrophysicist, astronaut, I don't care what you are. You had to have somebody that taught you how to do it. You've gone to somebody's school. So going back to our earlier statements about, you don't go into education, you won't make any money. That has changed a little bit over the years. I mean, in the beginning, like back in the 60s and so on and so on, 70s, maybe even 80s, that could hold true to a degree, but they have tried to make teaching salaries a little bit competitive. They're not there yet, but a little bit competitive.
I think so. I think the unions, and I'm pro-union, the unions have really done a really good job with negotiating teacher salaries to fit the location. So we're in New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania. It's different in the South, and they're using the calculation for the cost of living.
Right.
So of course that's going to vary, but there are so many other opportunities for teachers to earn additional pay as well.
That's correct.
Because we have so many opportunities for coaching, for tutoring, for extended day programs, for summer school, so many, and coaches, and with sports, and so teachers can live their passions outside of the classroom as well and engage students, and students can learn from them in other ways as well.
No question. So I see here you're looking to consult, because see, ultimately when I'm finished principaling, that's what I want to do as well. So you're moving into a consultant role to support emerging leaders with school climate. How's that going, or did you start it yet, or where are we in that process?
Yes, so twofold. I work for an educational consultant company called Inspired Instruction, and currently we have a contract that I'm working with in Patterson, but we provide professional development within schools across the states. So they're in multiple states. And I knew about that program because I engaged them with our school. So they were consultants, and they really had an impact on our teacher development, and it impacted our growth in literacy and mathematics. But also I have my own LLC called Anchored in Excellence, LLC. And with that, I am doing work with my book for different districts and organizations, because this book is not just written from the educational perspective, from the corporate, nonprofit, health industry, and churches. And also, I'm working on other professional development venues, because that's my passion, to guide others. So whether it's a group of non-instructional individuals, a group of blue-collar, whether it's individuals in the health industry, there's something that I can deliver to them to improve their knowledge.
Well, I'll tell you, you're ahead of me in terms of that's what I want to do. Ultimately, is that same type deal, is to get a chance to either motivational speak, travel the country, either work with districts or what have you. I'm not ready. I'm not going to do it yet because I got a few more years in the principal seat, but it ain't going to be. It's not that many more years. Let's put it that way.
Well, those skills that you learn in the principalship really help to create your path after you retire. And I wasn't sure what I was going to do. I had secured the position with Inspired Instruction before I left, so I knew that I was going to do that eventually. And then I had already had my LLC formed, but I just never worked under it. And I knew what I wanted to do. I just didn't think it was possible. So now being able to see those things come into fruition is really a humbling experience for me.
I know that's right.
And it could go further because there are so many educators that I've met that want to impact change in their district or in their schools. So it's limitless. And the good part about it is that I create my own schedule. I decide what jobs I'm going to pick up and which ones I'm not going to pick up, because everything doesn't register with my soul. Like, I just won't do something for the sake of doing something.
Correct.
It has to be something that I believe I'm going to have an impact, and that my voice matters, and that I am welcomed in the room. So if I don't feel if any of those components are not evident, then I won't take it on. And it's just nice to be able to have a choice. And I've just been blessed that have different people that I've come across that have listened to my story and are interested in engaging me in a conversation about the work that I've done and the work that I could help them do in their prospective organizations.
No, like I said, you are where I'm headed. Like I said, I'm not there yet, but that's where I'm headed. And just that whole notion of, like you said, you kind of get to pick and choose. Because I think one of the things because I'm not rushing retirement, but one of the most attractive things is not having to get up trying to punch the clock, trying to get there.
Yeah.
We have a certain time, we got to clock in, and if we're not, we're tardy, and after so forth. Yeah. So just to get to that point where I'm still going to work, but I'm going to work at my pace.
Your grind on.
Yes.
Your grind just changes because you do a lot of grind at your personal computer versus going into an office.
Right.
But the grind for me has never stopped. And it's continued to move and to rotate into multiple venues and in multiple industries. And I'm just going to see where it's going to take me. And just listening to others and just being open to people that have positions or opinions that are different from mine, because I'm still learning. And there's so many people that can still be touched through the work that I've done. So I'm just open and just willing to take opportunities and turn them into learning experiences.
I know that's right. Well, that brings us, this is a wonderful segue, because what I do for the last 5 minutes is I turn the mic off and you have the opportunity to promote, shout out, anything you'd like to do. The only thing, though, you cannot do is say a dollar amount. Anything else you can say, but anything short of a dollar amount, you are free to say, but you cannot get into costs or anything like that. They can do that when they get in touch with you. But any websites, how they reach information, telephone numbers, anything, anybody, whatever you want to do for the next few minutes, I turn the mic off and you have the opportunity to promote however you wish with the exception of a dollar amount. So I'm going to shut the mic off and it's on you.
Okay. Well, I just want to give a shout out to my family that have been supportive of me throughout my career, and those that are continually supporting me and allowing me to have my pathway, however that path is choosing to go. And a shout out to individuals that I work with at, within Newark Board of Education, because they have been responsible for me growing as an educator, as a leader, and now as a consultant. And my book is Thriving Together, Cultivating Growth and Well-Being in Educational Communities. You can purchase the book on Amazon or in Barnes & Noble. I know school districts can purchase the book through Barnes & Noble through a PO process. You can reach me at drwashington.edu@gmail.com. Again, that's drwashington.edu@gmail.com. You can also, I have a YouTube channel that I have a few videos of some work that I have done. And also my promotional video for the book is there. If you can check it out, purchase the book and share the link with your peers so that they can begin to think about how they can turn around their school culture and culture and climate. But if it's not turning it around, it's just about enhancing it, because we all, every day, you can seek different ways to improve where you are with your students and your staff. I just want to thank Marc Medley with GoBrave.org for giving me this opportunity to share my voice today.
Well, I thank you for rising early to join us. As always, I've enjoyed the conversation, especially when it's about education. That I had a chance to talk educator to educator, someone who knows what it's like, because people really are clueless when they drop their kids off in the morning at school, what goes on in school.
I agree with that, but they trust us.
That is correct.
Do the right thing. Yes.
That is absolutely right. Their most prized, and I don't want to say the kid is a possession, but their most prized possession they are turning over to us for 6 to 8 hours or however many long. And you're absolutely right. They trust that we're doing the right thing by their children. Mm-hmm. And so I always education is my thing as well. I'll probably be in touch because my dissertation is kind of sort of my dissertation. Or what I want to research is, because I'm not a big standardized test fan. I'm really not. I'm not saying the kids don't need to be tested. I'm not saying we don't need to be held accountable. I'm just not a big standardized test fan. But I do have kids who blow it away, and I have kids who tank it. So I want to kind of understand what's the difference, what's going on in that house versus that house. Because same kids sitting in the same classroom with the same teacher, one will nail it, the other one will blow it. And I want to know some of the factors, what's going on, what's causing that kid that can nail it, what's coming from the home or the parent perspective. And I may find out that, the same things are happening in both homes. One kid is just not a good test taker, the other one's great, and whatever. That's what I want to find out. That's what I want to know. What's the difference between the kid who nails it, who's all green, and the kid who's all red?
You may want to read Grit by Angela Duckworth, because it talked about grit and, like, are you born with it or is it something that's nurtured over time? And that can kind of give you a different perspective about why some people excel and some people don't.
Right. Okay, that's good, because I had that book.
And she focused on the West Point. How do students that go through West Point, how do some students make it and some students don't?
Okay, I'm almost sure I have grit in my iPad, on my Kindle. I'm almost sure I have grit in it. So now that you've said that, I'm going to make sure I'm going to go back and look over it and read over that. Because, yeah, that's what I want to see. Are there some factors contributing? Like, or is there something parents are doing or not doing? Or is there something going on in the home or not going on? Or is it, like you just said, is it just plain old grit? Like so I'm almost sure. I'm going to look it up a little bit later. But and if I don't, I'll download it.
Okay, yes, download it. It's definitely a good book to have in your library.
Yeah, like I said, I think it's already there, but if not, I definitely will, because I have your book in there as well. And so, yes, listening audience, with that being said, I encourage you to, because one of the things of the show, like I said, we don't get into the cost, but we do encourage you to go out and look the book up and download it, or either order it for yourselves also. So, all right, Dr. Washington, thank you so much for joining me. I've had a blast speaking with you, and I'm going to send you the YouTube link and the MP3 link, and you can share them as you wish.
Thank you, Mark, and it was a pleasure being with you today.
Same here.
With your dissertation and your future endeavors as a principal.
Thank you very much. Have a wonderfully blessed day and week, and I'll be in touch with you.
All right, thank you.
Take
Bye-bye.
care. Bye-bye.